Just under 3 weeks ago, back in August, I ran 2:44 for the marathon, a big personal best, almost a 5-minute personal best on my previous marathon that I ran back in February of this year. So a little over 6 months ago, when I ran 2:48. I'm making this video because almost a 5-minute PB over a 6-month period, I think is worthy to talk about. Perhaps some of the things that I have developed throughout my marathon training. This is my 5th marathon. To take those almost 5 minutes off, thought it would be great to share with you guys. I ran the Adelaide Marathon this year, 2:44. That is a 16-minute improvement of the time that I ran at Adelaide last year, which was a PB at the time. So in many ways, I hope to include not only the micro changes that I've made to hit that 2:44, but also a few of those macro changes that took me from a 3-hour marathon to a 2:44 in just 1 year. Starting us off with number 1, and that is time. This time around, I allowed myself more time than I needed throughout all of my training, throughout all of my recovery, throughout all of my sessions. And this came about purely on the basis that after reflection of all of my marathons prior to this marathon, which first one being back in April of last year, so my marathon journey has been pretty short. But going back to that marathon last year in April, I came off the back, and on that finish line I pretty much said to myself, let's get booked in for the next marathon. I loved it. As much pain as I was in, I couldn't wait to do it again, and it was only about 4 months until the next. And then following that, it was about 6 weeks until the next marathon, and then between that marathon and the next, there was a little bit more time. We're talking about 5 months, and this is when I saw a big improvement in my time. I went from a 2:58 marathon to a 2:48. That was a big 10-minute PB, huge. I made a video about that, you can check that out here. And I really thought, coming off the back of that marathon, if I just took a little bit more time, perhaps that would actually make this whole training process a bit easier. So that's what I did. So coming back off my most previous PB prior to this one, the 2:48 that I ran in February of this year, I took a full 6 weeks off of running. Now during this time, I had an amazing trip around Australia with my family, and just ran here and there, but really not much at all. A few 5Ks, no speed sessions, no long runs, just purely running for the fun of it for half an hour or so here and there. When I got back into training, working with my coach, Tony, I was really careful not to dial up the tempo too quickly. In fact, our first sort of 6 weeks of training, which you can see on my Strava, it's public, I'll leave a link down below so you can see all of that, we really didn't push the mileage that much. Previously in marathon builds, I've gone up to 130, 140 Ks, but for the first good chunk of my training, I was only running about 70, 80 K a week. And it was only really until about 8 weeks out from the marathon that my mileage really went up, and I started to hit those 100, 110, 120, 130 K weeks, until I eventually peaked at about 140 kilometers. But really throughout all of this time, I was really cautious not to be burning the candle at both ends. So if I was having a big day at work, having a big day of training, and maybe I had some social commitments as well, I was actually sometimes, I would have liked to have stretched myself a bit more and perhaps made a video for the channel, or perhaps put some time into other projects that I've had on the go. But actually just given myself that half an hour in the evening, that hour, just to really wind down, just read my books, listen to podcasts, or just be as still as possible, I think really helped me this time around, not only in my recovery, but in my overall motivation, energy levels, just getting ready for that big day. I think I was just much more balanced and able to actually absorb all the quality of all the training that I was doing, as well as maximizing on that recovery. So number 1, time is important. So number 2 is about strength, and this time around I'm talking specifically around strength and conditioning, an area that I've definitely neglected throughout my training, throughout my whole running journey. I've been running now just over 2 years. It's 2 years since I got sober from alcohol and cigarettes, and during that time I can tell you that my physical fitness, my capabilities as an athlete, and my mental strength has just increased. It almost feels like tenfold. But one thing that hasn't necessarily improved, or I've given much time and energy to improve during this period, is my overall strength. I'm going to turn around now because I'm getting quite far away from where I parked the car. Hope I'm not too back there. But strength came about this time around because I actually got a new job. So without, you know, going into too much of a backstory or a tangent here, I'm from the UK and I'm living in Australia at the moment, and for my visa here in Australia I had to do some sort of regional, rural, I guess you could call it farm work to obtain my next year of visa to stay here in the country. And to do this I got a job on a quarry, and the quarry work involves me lifting lots of heavy rocks. And so because of this heavy lifting, I have been able to pick up quite a bit of strength in my day-to-day. Now, I work 4 days a week and the days are decent in length, but I'm still able to get out after my day of lifting heavy rocks and get some good training in, whether that be running or just stretching, a little bit of yoga here and there. I've always been able to get home and carry on moving the body after my day of lifting heavy things. Now, it's quite an unconventional way of building strength because you can't really prescribe someone's, I guess, working day. Like there's no repetitions, how many rocks I lift or weight. You know, I have no idea how much weight I'm lifting, but I think just this sort of core strength and I guess the kind of fitness that I've built through this job, which doesn't involve a whole lot of walking or really anything else but lifting, I think has really actually improved my overall strength and no doubt my running fitness and form. So this is a bit of an interesting one and I'm excited over time to see how this develops. But point 2 being strength. Just to interject between these points, this episode is sponsored by the Scot Free Run Club, a running club that I own and operate, and a, I guess, opportunity for me to share my knowledge through coaching with anyone that is interested in being involved. It is a premium service. It is a paid for service. However, if you're interested in just some free tips and tricks, I do have some highlights over on Instagram that you can check out, which will all be linked down below. But hang around till the end of the video to hear more about the Scot Free Run Club. Diving into point number 3, and that is recovery. I am a true believer that sleep is everything. Doesn't matter how much massage, gunning, or anti-inflammatory ice baths or massages you're getting, I really do think that sleep is everything. Now, one thing that I've done throughout this training is a very, very minor change, and it does come with a bit of cost, so it's not for everyone. But I will say, if you can afford it, please try the Pillar Triple Magnesium Supplement. Now, this video is sponsored in no way, but I have to say that Pillar, I'm just so impressed by what they've done with this triple magnesium product. I'll link this down below and you can read some articles, decide for yourself, but I would really suggest just giving it a whack. If you're a few weeks out from your goal race or you're just deep into training at the moment, it's a really good time to give this a go. Essentially, in a tub of Pillar Magnesium, triple magnesium, you get 40 servings. Now, I started taking this 40 days out from the marathon, and I really had in mind that if I was to just get a slight marginal improvement in my sleep, that would in turn, you know, exacerbate the benefits that I'm getting from my training. It was going to obviously improve my recovery and really just give me that tiny benefit on race day, shaving off those few seconds, which, to be honest, if I'm going to go out and first of all pay a coach, make the effort to run almost every day of the week, try and maximize in every other area, wear carbon shoes, why wouldn't I make this small I guess financial investment to perhaps increase my recovery and therefore performance? So I picked up a tub of Pillar Triple Magnesium, started using it, and I was basically sold the triple magnesium under the basis that the combination, I guess, that Pillar have developed would basically allow my body to absorb more of the magnesium that I'm actually taking. So when you're using sort of generic magnesium, I think bio-magnesium is often the term given to it. Your body actually doesn't absorb that much of it, like only a few % of what you're taking, and most of it is actually waste product, whereas the triple magnesium developed by Pillar, you're meant to absorb much more of that, in turn improving your REM sleep. And I was actually shown some really impressive Garmin figures, so like Garmin sleep trackers that were able to see a dramatic improvement of sleep performance. So I'm not sure if it was placebo, but from day one, I literally woke up every day feeling absolutely unbelievable. And I have to say that after those 40 days were done, the marathon was run, and my supply of pillow, trip and magnesium ran out, I did start to just feel quite shit when I woke up in the mornings again. So it is an expensive product, can't deny that. I think I paid about $40 for 40 servings, so $1 a day, I guess it's not bad, but definitely adds up, and not something I'll be doing all the time. But definitely food for thought, you know, 4 minutes off in a marathon, almost 5 minutes. Yeah, I think it probably helped. Number 3, recovery. Number 4 is all about racecraft. So I firmly believe that each time we go out and we execute a race, a time trial, a properly executed training session, we are practicing our racecraft. Now, racecraft, what do I mean by that? That is all about how are we going to tackle the, I guess, feat ahead of us, whether it be a marathon, a half marathon, a 5K, whatever it is. Racecraft is all about understanding, firstly, how are we going to, I guess, strategically tackle this? Are we going to run the first half quicker than the second? Vice versa? Are we going to negative split? Are we going to break the race down into 3 chunks, 4 chunks, whatever it is? And acting on that. So do we have the discipline in our locker to say, actually, I'm going to hold myself back for the first quarter and then really unleash it, you know, as we approach the end? Or is that an area that I need to work on? Do I go out of the gates too quick every time? Or do I, when I see someone I know in the crowd cheering my name, does that just make me just go a bit haywire and just run the next few K ridiculously fast? This is something we really need to think about when we are in a race scenario, because our emotions are always high on the day. I even get it in training. Sometimes in training, I listen to some music for my session, I have a Red Bull or I have a caffeinated Morton gel, and I'm just buzzing, and I can't wait to do the session, and I go out and smash the first rep, and then I'm absolutely dead for the next 7. If this is the case, I think you really need to start practicing that sense of, okay, I'm going to be disciplined, I'm going to hold myself back, and actually I don't care how this workout looks on Strava, I don't care how I'm going to feel about it first, because what's most important is what are you going to get from the workout. Now, over time, I found that my discipline has increased throughout my workouts and my races. Doesn't mean to say I don't get overly excited, of course I do, but throughout this training plan, I have been really careful during my workouts to hold myself back at the beginning, let a bit more out at the end. And that is just something that I've been rehearsing over and over to really try and get that negative split down on race day, to really remind the body that there's always something left at the end. We just need to squeeze that sponge to extract the most. Now, in the build up to this marathon, about 6 weeks out from the day, I ran a half marathon and ran a PB that day. I ran a 1:17, that was a 3-minute PB. And I was over the moon with this, absolutely delighted. And what I was able to do that race, following a prescribed, I guess, race strategy from my coach, I was able to run 2 consecutive 10K PBs in this race and finish the second half stronger than I ran the first. Faster, I should say, because as I was running that race, I was just seeing those Ks just tick off on my watch and just aiming for slightly faster every time. And this meant by the big day in the marathon that I could just ease through the first 25 or so K and just know that that last 17, I was absolutely going to send it for all it was worth. And when it got to about 35K, I thought just over a park run to go, and just absolutely turned on the jets and went for it. And I was absolutely over the moon to come away with a 10-second negative split, running my first half 10 seconds slower than my second half. Over the moon. So number 4, practice that racecraft. And a bonus bit of fun on that last one, in the last sort of mile of that marathon, I overtook 3 other runners that perhaps went off a little too fast, and I was able to catch these guys, finished in 5th place and won $250 for it. Bloody wicked. And my 5th and final tip, you've heard it time and time again, it is the most played song in the songbook, and that is run as easy as you bloody can on the easy days. I can't stress it enough. There were days during my plan when I was always tempted to run my easy runs just a little bit faster, but come on, when it comes to the end of the marathon training block, when you're going out on that marathon day, who is going to care how fast your easy runs were? No one's going to care. People want to see the time you finish your marathon in, and to be honest, they don't even really care that much. Just running the distance is amazing, and quite frankly, give yourself a pat on the back if you've made it that far. But ultimately, slow those runs down, slow the easy runs down. This is a chance for your body to absorb all of the other training. I say to my athletes that I coach that the easy running is the non-negotiable. If you're short on time in your training week and you say to me, Scott, I can't run 5 days this week, mate, I can only manage 4 or 3, I'm going to say to you, okay mate, first thing we're going to do, we're going to knock off that interval session, we're going to knock off that fartlek or that long run. We are going to get those easy recovery runs in no matter what. They're the non-negotiables, because they're the ones that just tick over our fitness over time. They're the ones that absorb the training from the week before that, any cumulative fatigue that we got in the body. It's just so important to keep the legs moving. That active recovery is everything when we are marathon training, and don't neglect it. That is why number 5, the 5th and final tip, is all about taking the easy runs easy. Come on. Now, of course, there is so much more to marathon training than the 5 tips that I've included in this video, but combine what I've said today with your own consistency in running, your all accountable approach to planning your training week, so making sure that you've got a good variety of speed and recovery in there, long runs, and making sure that you're consuming a good amount of nutrition throughout your training, you get quality amount of sleep, and you are going to be in a pretty good place to go and attack that marathon, that half marathon, whatever you've got coming up. If you enjoyed this video, please leave me a like and a comment down below. And just to quickly dive into the Scot Free Run Club before my GoPro dies, which if the video ends abruptly, you know it happened. But Scot Free Run Club for me is an opportunity to share my knowledge in all things sobriety, in all things taking up running as an ex-smoker, to have a Scot-free approach to running, to really consider if we go out too hard, we're going to pay for it the next day. We can't live scot-free, it's just impossible, but we can be accountable, and we can remind ourselves that actually our body does need rest as much as it needs stimulus, and it needs to be pushed, it needs to be cared for, and it needs to be embraced. And through my coaching, I really hope to share all the knowledge that I've picked up. It is a premium service, and it is something that I know isn't going to be accessible to everyone, but I'm always happy to help. Jump in my DMs on Instagram if you have any questions about anything running related. Of course, those that can financially support what I do, I'm going to give them all of the time that I can. I offer daily communication, weekly running plans. There's no contract, so my coaching can be a weekly basis for you, fortnightly, monthly, whatever works for you. But if this is something you're interested in, please drop me a line on Instagram. I'll leave my email address down below if that is preferable to you. But yeah, currently I have a cap on the amount of athletes that I am taking on, just because I am still working full-time, and coaching is just a, I guess, part-time endeavor for me. But if that sounds good to you, drop me a line down below. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all again soon.
Woo! Halfway! Here you go.
4 minutes, 26.4. Let's hear it for Scott Coller.